All right, let's just jump right into this explainer. We're looking at a blueprint today that is basically an economic engine for generative AI. You already know the top models are gobbling up trillions of words and billions of images. But the big elephant in the room isn't the scale anymore, right? It's the data. Where is it actually coming from? And more importantly, who owns it? The source material we are looking at today maps out what they call an automated royalty architecture for generative assets. It's a fascinating structural fix to one of the absolute gnarliest challenges in tech right now.
So right out of the gate, we have to ask, how do the right people actually get paid automatically in AI? Because right now, millions of data points, samples, human validations, labels are being fed into these massive models every single day, often without a clear path to compensate the original creators. What we really need is a system where getting paid isn't just some afterthought. It needs to be a built-in feature of the tech itself. We've got to fix the issue of uncompensated AI training data, and the architecture we're exploring today is designed to do exactly that. Which brings us to part one, the new royalty economy, or how we go about building this economic engine.
And diving right into part two, fractional ownership explained, dividing the asset. So the very first step in this whole life cycle is figuring out exactly how a data asset is owned in the first place. You can't just hand out fractional ownership randomly, right? It is established through a really strict combination of three specific things: contributions, verification, and staking. Think about it kind of like slicing a pie. You've got the people actually contributing the raw data or the labels. Then you have the verification layer. These are the folks proving the data is accurate and high quality. And finally, you have staking, which is where backers basically put up collateral, like a security deposit, to vouch for that asset. By slicing it up this way, the architecture mathematically defines exactly who owns what percentage of any given data asset before it ever even touches a generative AI model.
All right, moving on to part three, tracking and metering usage, going from lineage to settlement.
Okay, so once that ownership is completely locked in, the next phase is accurately recording and metering how that data is actually consumed. And there's a really sharp distinction to make here between lineage and settlement. On the lineage side, the system is essentially printing a permanent receipt. It records when data is consumed for training, fine-tuning, and evaluating a model, proving exactly where the AI got its knowledge. But over on the settlement side, that is where the magic happens for creators. When those downstream models are actually put to work out in the wild, the system actively meters the inference. It's literally counting the specific requests, the tokens generated, the API calls. We're not just saying, hey, this data was used for training. We are actively metering the live performance of the AI to trigger a real financial settlement.
This leads perfectly into part four, smart contracts and payouts, the automatic split.
So here we are at the payout phase. Because we already established those precise fractions of ownership earlier on, and because we're actively counting those API calls and tokens, we can deploy smart contracts. These active pieces of software automatically and continuously split the royalties across those exact fractions. Payouts go directly to the contributors, the validators, the backers, and a portion goes to the protocol treasury just to keep the whole machine running. You know what's great here? Nobody is sending an invoice. Nobody is chasing down an accounting department at the end of the month. The smart contracts just execute the split continuously based on the agreed terms locked into the system. It's totally seamless.
And the flexibility of this engine is wild. It is definitely not a one-size-fits-all setup. The architecture supports a few different modes depending on business needs. You've got your standard pay-as-you-train setup. But then there's TNPL, train now, pay later. It's literally like getting 0% financing on a new living room couch, except it's for massive AI compute and data licensing. And maybe the most fascinating part is the option for performance-linked pay-on results. Payouts can actually be tied directly to specific KPIs or service-level agreements. If a model absolutely crushes it, specifically because of your high-quality data, the payout structure reflects that. It aligns everyone's incentives perfectly.
Let's hit part five, the chain reaction, creating the positive loop. When you put all these mechanical engines of ownership, metering, and payouts together, you get this incredibly powerful compounding effect. Think about it. Because creators know for a fact they'll be paid fairly and automatically, they are heavily incentivized to provide better data. That high-quality verified input inevitably creates vastly superior models. Better models naturally attract more usage in the real world, and since that usage is actively metered for settlement, more usage loops straight back into more royalties for everyone involved. It's just a brilliant, self-sustaining feedback loop. Higher quality inputs inevitably equal automatic compensation for the right people, period.
Which brings us to our final section, part six, the plug-and-play future and what you actually get.
So what are the actual tangible benefits at the end of this journey? Let's break down what you're really walking away with here. First, you get ownable data assets. meaning your specific samples, labels, validations, completely wrapped in an immutable, unchangeable lineage. Your contribution is permanently recorded. Second, you get continuous royalty-based payouts whenever those assets are licensed or whenever the derived models are used in production. And third, which is absolutely massive for developers, you get a pluggable backend. This whole economic engine is designed to literally just plug right into existing platforms to add ownership and royalty sharing.
And that really leaves us with one final huge question to think about. Companies do not have to tear down and re-architect their entire front ends from scratch for this to work. They can simply plug this back-end architecture into what they already have. So what are your favorite platforms going to look like when they suddenly flip the switch and plug into this new, fair, automated royalty economy? Are we about to see a completely new wave of human creativity and data contribution? That is something genuinely exciting to think about. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you in the next one.